Here we go! Okay, let's go! And welcome everyone to another One Up XP Show podcast / interview, whatever you want to call it. But today we are joined by another collegiate program. And today we are talking to Shaun Byrne from St. Clair College in Windsor, just across the border. Shaun, welcome. First of all, I have to say sorry because I always put St. Clair Shores. St. Clair Shores is down by Detroit. I'm a Michigan kid. It's St. Clair Shores, but it's not St. Clair Shores, folks. It's St. Clair College in Windsor, Ontario. So, Shaun, thank you so much for joining me, man. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that mistake happens a lot if you're local to this area. So
So good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. But I wrote up the rundown, and then I looked at it after I sent it to you. I was like, I put St. Clair Shores. Oh, no. Like, that's the first thing that comes to mind. But welcome, brother. I appreciate you being here. And we're going to talk about everything St. Clair's program, Esports program, because you guys really have a heck of a program at St. Clair. It's monstrous. When you step outside and look at it from the outside, it's like, wow. From the Nexus, which just launched, which I believe is, correct me if I'm wrong, but Canada's biggest collegiate esports arena, or whatever you'd like to call it.
Definitely the biggest for a collegiate space.
Okay.
And we're a little bit unsure of this, but we're fairly confident it's the largest just in general esports space.
It's
in
monstrous.
Canada, or permanent space anyway.
Yeah, it's huge. And you guys just unveiled that. You guys have esports curriculum, which is awesome as well, because, you know, if you're playing esports, your probably mindset is, I want to go somewhere in esports. So you have that for the kids. But we're going to run into this all through questions and all through, we'll discuss more about it and all of the esports landscape, collegiate, whatever it is. But let's talk about you first. Shaun, how did this get started for you? How did you say, oh, I am going to be an esports professor and varsity director at the collegiate level? Take me from step one when you're a kid, probably getting involved with video games, to now. How did it all get started, and how did we get to here?
Yeah, so I'll try to go through it fairly quickly, but I've been lifelong gamer like most people in this space. Around when I was in the University of Windsor when I was about 18, 19 years old, back in 2010, 2019, 2010. I was just running LAN events, small LAN events at my parents' house. I was living at home still. And eventually those LAN events grew a little bit too big. By the time I ran the third one, I think I had somewhere around 30 or 35 people over to play. We didn't grow up in a giant house. It was just like your small, 3-bed, 1-bath type house. Like, it was a small farmhouse. So as soon as I had 35 people over until the wee hours of the morning, the next morning, my parents are like, you can't do this here anymore. Like, This is too crazy. So what I realized as a student at the University of Windsor, and this is true at most colleges, universities, is, if you start a club, you can get free space to book on campus. So that's what I realized, like, oh, I can just start a club, book a room on campus, and I can keep doing these things somewhere where nobody's going to bother us, and I'm not going to be bothering anybody. So we did that. So I basically started this video gaming club at the University of Windsor for purely selfish reasons, because I wanted somewhere to play video games with my friends.
Right.
What happened though shortly after was that we started getting people just knocking on the door, like, hey, can we come play? Can we come play? Just random students on campus that we didn't know. And so, we kind of opened the club up, and before we knew it, we had 200 or 300 members in the club. Wow. It just kind of blew up. From there, we started running events, and we would usually charge some money for entry, and then we would buy prizes with that money and that kind of thing. And our goal was never really to make money. It was just kind of break even. But after a couple of those events, we kind of paid each other back all of our IOUs for random things we bought for the event. And we realized there was money left over. And after, writing some math on the back of a napkin, we realized we generated a little bit of profit.
Right.
So from there, kind of a light bulb went off, and we realized maybe there's a business opportunity here. So from about 2012 to 2017, that's what I did. I left collegiate esports, but continued working in esports, running events for a while. So we ran events all over Ontario. some as far as Montreal, and some in Michigan as well.
Hmm.
So local to you, the Big House Smash events or
Yeah.
Frostbite. I was involved with running some of those for a handful of years. And then I even went up as far north as Montreal, working on events like DreamHack and
Right.
Landing TS, which are big events up in that area. So did that for 5 years, and then around late 2016, some of the students from St. Clair College who ran their own events here reached out to me and asked, "Hey, could you come in and help us? We're trying to build a bigger event on campus, and we need your help." So they brought me in, and eventually they introduced me to um, some of the administration here, specifically some people from athletics and some people from the student union. And while I was in those conversations, pitched the idea of like, look, this is 2016, so there wasn't a lot of collegiate esports like
Right.
varsity programs yet, but there was 4 or 5 of them, and I introduced that idea. Like, what if St. Clair College did more than just run one event? What if St. Clair College became Canada's first varsity program? And it took several meetings to convince them of the idea, but eventually they went for it, and we got started, and we officially announced the program, and I believe it was January 2017, and we launched officially in September of
Wow.
2017.
So you guys are
Um,
5 years old this month.
we're 5. This is our 6th season, yeah, that we're going into this
Wow.
year. Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, by the time we officially launched in September 2017, I believe there was somewhere, it's hard to know for sure because there's not very good history books on this stuff, but
Right.
there was somewhere around 10 or 15 schools at most in all of North America that had
Yeah.
officially supported varsity programs. So we got started pretty early. And, I think that's really a reason for a lot of the success we have. We're just ahead of the game for a lot of people
Well, you're 5 years
compared to a
deep
lot of
into it.
schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because when you look at it, like when you're everything you're saying, I've run into people saying the same thing. I talked to Lambton just north of you guys, and he was talking about how, things up in Montreal with running esports, and then eventually trickled down to, Lambton getting one. You guys had one prior to, and then also talking to, Carl at Oakland. He was at Robert Morris in 2014. So you guys weren't too far off the
Yeah.
ball. You guys were right there. But this
Mhm.
shows you what you can get with 5 years of patience and hard work. I mean, look at your program now. And it just came from pitching the idea. And that's what a lot of people do is pitch the idea. And now you can say, well, look, this is what happens in 5 years at St. Clair. Let's get hard work going in 5 years. We could possibly be where they're at or maybe even bigger. So I think
Yeah.
you guys have set a really good foundation of, hey, look, this is what happens with 5 years of work. That's
Mhm.
pretty awesome. I didn't realize, were you guys the first varsity program?
Yeah, we were the first in Canada, and like Lambton was like shortly after us.
Shortly
So
after, yeah.
so we launched Varsity first. They kind of beat us like by a few months for the academic side.
Yeah.
So it was we kind of like split that. So um, I can't remember exactly when they started their varsity program. It might have been
I think
it
it
might
was
have been September 2018,
2018.
maybe.
Yeah, because
Yeah, it probably was September 2018.
I remember Lazarus announced that they were part of it, and it was 2018, and then
Yeah,
2019 is when I went into the pro side of things, and I remember they were working
yeah.
with Lambton.
Yeah,
But
like their academic program launched September 2019.
yeah,
Ours launched January, or sorry, theirs launched September 2018. Their academic program, I believe, and
yeah,
our academic program launched January 2019. So like halfway through the year, but our graduates graduated at the same time.
got
So it's kind of like uh,
you. So
we
they
both got
they
our paperwork into the Ministry of Education, and they
yeah
just got approved first.
they had the Canada's first esports curriculum, while you had Canada's first esports varsity program.
Yeah,
So
basically.
you
Yeah,
just traded hands there.
exactly.
So you got started, and now here we are. You are the esports professor and varsity director there at St. Clair College. So fill me in on St. Clair. I put St. Clair Shores again. St. Clair College. St. Clair College. Fill me in here. You guys are in Windsor, just across the river. But what do you guys offer to kids? Do you guys have scholarships? Obviously, you guys have the curriculum. But what is St. Clair's grab to the kids around the Detroit area, around Ontario? Like, what is it that says, hey, come here and play esports, or come here and get your curriculum?
Yeah, so we basically have two different programs. We've got the varsity side or the competitive side,
Hmm.
and we've got the academic side. So what we're trying to do is create an environment where, regardless of if your goal is to go pro and play a game competitively, or if you want to work behind the scenes as a broadcaster or in marketing or whatever, we
Right.
want to give all of all of those different types of students opportunities to work in esports and find their place. So um, on the varsity side, which we launched first, we do offer obviously facilities. The Nexus facility just
Hmm.
opened here just a few weeks ago, and we're still working out some kinks right now. Um, but that's about 15,000 square feet of space. It's just dedicated to esports. So in
That's
that space, we've
monstrous.
got yeah. So we've got like a 6v6 stage with two big screens
Yeah.
on it and like a spectator area. We've got a console lounge area with 8 stations. We've got VR. We've got 3 VR
I
bays.
saw that. That
Yeah,
was pretty.
which
That's
it's
pretty
been very
neat.
popular so far.
And we'll show pictures. I saw all the pictures online, and they have some on their website as well. But we'll show you
Yeah,
all of the insides of the Nexus and how it's running.
yeah.
But yeah, that is a huge draw.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's one of the big things we're offering is top of the line facilities, the
Mhm.
players to come in, and they're all excited and they want to play on this stuff. Then of course we're offering scholarship support. So um, at the baseline level, we're offering 25% tuition scholarships,
Very
and
cool.
then that goes all the way up to basically what we're calling full ride now, which is full tuition plus your housing covered as well.
Very cool.
Um, so that's about as good as almost. I think there's only maybe two schools that are able to offer more than what we currently can
Mhm.
for players right now. So we're pretty happy with that. And then we're also offer obviously help with travel, and we pay for all of the registration fees
Right.
and that kind of thing. So we're basically trying to offer as much as we possibly can to players to come and compete for us because our goal is to win national championships.
And you get that's what I like to hear. You guys, now college and university, the difference in Canada. You guys are 4 year school, or is it a 2 year?
So yeah, in Canada, like I know in the US, you kind of use the terms interchangeably a
Yeah.
bit. Here, colleges generally refer to schools that offer 2 and 3 year diplomas,
Okay.
which is so the majority of our students are on 2 and 3 year diplomas.
Hmm.
That being said, though, there has been a push recently for by the Ministry of Education. They want colleges to start offering more degree programs.
Hmm.
So we do have a small handful, and that number will continue to grow over the years. So we do have a handful of students that are in bachelor degree programs right now. We have Nicholas Siri. He's basically a work study student who's overseeing our academy program,
Hmm.
and he's in a bachelor's program, for example, a bachelor's of business. So we do have a handful, but for the most part, the general kind of differentiator is colleges are 2 and 3 year diploma programs, and universities are your bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhDs. That's kind of the difference in Canada.
Got you. Okay, so we got the kind of the gist of St. Clair under our belts, but let's talk about the program achievements. Now we got the history on it, where you guys started, where you guys are. But you guys play. First of all, I do want to say you were the NACAD Director of the Year in 2020. Hats off to you. That's a huge achievement. But what divisions, or I guess conferences? Not even really conferences, but what do you guys play in? You play in NACAD? Do you play in NACE as well?
Yeah, so we prioritize the like for every game. There's generally one sort of developer supported
Right.
league. So we generally will prioritize those first. So like in League of Legends, it's CLOL, which is
Yep.
run by Riot itself.
Hmm.
This year they're going to have CVAL as well for Valorant.
Correct.
CRL is kind of the de facto top league for Rocket League,
Hmm.
and then CCL is the top league for Call of Duty. So those are kind of like our priority leagues,
Hmm.
and then NACE would be our number two priority.
Okay.
And then after that, we're looking at other leagues to fill our schedules to give our students like a well-rounded experience. So NECC is another league we compete pretty heavily in. I think we have 7 or 8 teams competing at NECC this year.
Hmm.
And we even last year started competing in the NJCAA.
Yep.
So I believe we're technically the first Canadian college to compete in the NJCAA, which basically is for anybody that's listening that doesn't know, the NJCAA is kind of like the NCAA for junior
Junior
colleges in
colleges.
the U.S.
We have
Yeah,
one
so
here that is only 30 minutes from me. Northwestern. Oh, oh man, why do I always forget their name? NMC, Northwestern Michigan College.
I'll keep an
Traverse
eye
City.
out for them now.
Yeah, they're in Traverse City.
But,
So they're just, if you want to do the mitten,
yeah.
they're right here.
Yeah, they're right there.
So there's a few that are in that conference here in Northern Michigan because we have some JUCOs or associates, if you call them that, community colleges really that are up this way. More of the universities are downstate. You run into Tech and Northern Michigan and Lake Superior State up in the UP, but most of the big ones are downstate. So we have a few that are in that conference as well. But I did hear that, because what you guys run into is a lot of people are like, well, why is Canada part of it? But the thing is, why isn't Canada part of it? I mean, one, you guys are so close to the border, just like Lambton. Why not get you guys involved? Which, during the pandemic and actually traveling now, I mean, pandemic probably wasn't nearly as tough just because you guys could all play online. But obviously you want to be in lands as much as possible. So travel might not be as easy. But yeah, that was, I was like, why not include Canada?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all North American anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, for traditional sports, it's been pretty hard. Like, if like our college teams, I think could compete in the NJCAA and do pretty well. Like, we have some good athletics teams here as well. But the problem is, it's just like the cost is prohibitive because if we had to even just traveling across the border and going to the Michigan schools and vice versa would just cause a lot of logistical headaches. Even just thinking about passports, for example, like
that's a
usually
penny.
most Canadians have passports, but what we found is that a lot of Americans don't have passports. No. And so, often when we invite Americans over, they're like, "Oh, how do I get there? Do I need anything?" I'm like, "You need a passport." They're like, "Oh, I don't have one of those. I can't come." So
or if you're from Michigan, you can get a fancy license.
Yeah, you can get the enhanced license as well, but yeah, I think in athletics you've got a bunch of other logistical hurdles to overcome. Whereas in esports, since everything's online, we can play against in those leagues. We're playing against junior colleges, we're playing against 4-year universities, whoever from Texas, from Florida, even West Coast schools, depending on the league. Like generally leagues try to avoid having an East Coast school and a West Coast school play each other just because of like ping issues and stuff. But it's still technically possible.
You just to get a VPN, do that, don't you? And run it that way?
Generally what will happen is like it depends on the game, because some games have better server locations than others, but when you've got like when your options are either a New York server or a California server, it's kind of like gonna give an advantage to one of the teams.
Correct.
So generally what they'll do is the leagues will say, game 1 is on East, game 2 is on West, and then if there's a game 3, then you like flip a coin or something like that.
No, I definitely hear that, because when I was pro in Fortnite, I think my ping was 36 in Michigan. But everybody was moving to Virginia where you have 0 ping, and it's like, I don't have the internet capabilities of even coming close to being able to steal a wall, let alone play against somebody with 0 ping. But then I did find out when this all started for work, I got to stream from work one time for a 24-hour stream, and I had 1 ping because they have 1 up, 1 down gig internet.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my, this is amazing. Like, Fortnite's never been better. But I was just like, the ping issues, I can understand it, especially in games like Smash, where maybe Nintendo just doesn't really care about esports as much. It's not necessarily an easy thing to do. But again, LANs aren't an easy thing to do either. They're just like a traditional sporting event, and it's not the easiest thing to set up. What are your program goals? I know, obviously, you have student athletes, but what are the goals for the program, whether it's, now or 5-10 years down the line? Obviously, I know you didn't think you'd be here in 5 years with this program like it is now, but what are the goals when you sit down every day and be like, all right, this is what I got to do to setting up a school year in events?
Well, I guess we got different goals on the different sides of the program, but on the varsity side, of course, like one of our main goals is to win national championships, and like at the minimum we have 5 teams that we're supporting on a varsity level this year, and then I think we have a lot. I think it's 12 teams we're supporting on an academy level this year. So even the academy level support is very good. We can't offer like full ride tuitions, for example, to academy players. Like we have a limited number of those that we can offer, so those go to varsity. But either way, like our goal is on the competitive side, of course, is to win championships. On the academic side, like my goal is to graduate students that go out and get jobs working in esports, in the industry. And we've had a handful of really successful students go out there and do that. So that's been really cool to see. Those are kind of like, I guess, the two broad goals is to help students on both sides, competitively and academically, making sure we're having successful students like leave our program. And
Right.
very broad overall statement is, we want people to come into the program and then leave better people than when they came in.
No, I
so
mean, that's
in a very broad sense, that's really what we're trying to do.
that is pretty much any coach's or director's goal at the collegiate level is, I mean, even the pro level. You want people to come in and leave as better people, whether
Exactly.
it's sports related or even just human related. I think that goes for everybody when it comes to any programs like this. Let's jump into the questions, and I do have to ask, like, now that the pandemic is kind of easing up, we talked to Lambton during the pandemic and the struggles that we're going through. But for you guys, do you see this now coming out as more of a hurdle than what was set up? Obviously, you guys have been in the game for 5 years, so you know the things that were prior pandemic, then the pandemic, and now what's after the pandemic. Do you see more things like more lands opening up for you guys, or do you guys have a better awareness of how to do things from home, I guess?
No, we're definitely set up. Like I do think that esports in general, collegiate esports definitely works better in a non-pandemic time.
Right. Yeah.
We were we weren't okay. So when the pandemic was really kind of in full swing, our athletics program had to just completely shut down.
Yeah.
We didn't have to do that. At least we got to keep going.
Right.
But we weren't at our full capability.
Right.
There was a year where our broadcast team, for example, um, I have a full-time staff member, Dan, and he runs our broadcast. He had to run the broadcast just out of his apartment. He wasn't able to come to campus. He wasn't able to bring students together. Normally, he has a staff of 4 or 5 students at least on every broadcast, and he had to basically just kind of really dumb down the broadcast and do it all single-handedly for the most part. So there's a lot of things that, yes, we could do them, but just not at our full capability. So getting back into in person and now with the new facility, we can do so much more than we could before. So definitely prefer for this post-COVID environment. Even though that's a whole other thing. Yeah. But being back in person is definitely really important for us. It is a big debate that actually happens in the collegiate space because there are some schools that are fully online schools trying to compete against schools that are, your traditional in-person schools and that kind of thing. And I'm definitely firmly in the camp of, varsity esports should be on campus for sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're using online. Yeah, we're using online to play against opponents and stuff like that. So there's always going to be an online component to it, but
it's
the
completely
fully
different,
online. Yeah. The fully online remote schools is really kind of what kind of irks me a bit because, I've seen it firsthand how much value the students get out of being here in person. And I know for a fact that they can't get that same value remotely. And there's a lot more opportunity for abuse when you've got players just remoting in to play their games and stuff like that. So
correct. It opens up the doors to many things that you don't really want.
Exactly.
And we've had this discussion. I had a segment called the Coaches Roundtable. We had Adam Anter, Carleone, and Chris on, and we talked at length about things like that. Like, do you say no, you can't be online? Do you say you have to be? And once I think, when the NCAA starts getting involved, if they do, I think that's something they really have to, put a hard line on. You can't be online. You cannot be a full online student and play esports. Or if there is, there's going to be a league for it because you just can't do that.
I think eventually there'll be another league for it. Like I think there'll be a league that pops up that caters to those online schools.
Right.
Like they'll have a league of their own to play in. So
I mean, it's like telling a football player, yeah, you can play football from, when we're not on the field. No, that doesn't work. It just doesn't work that way. But I'm in the camp with you as well. Like I played hockey, I played baseball in college, and it's like the camaraderie that you get with those people and the ownership you get from having someone with you playing a game is very different than the ownership. Like if you and I were playing a game right now, like it wouldn't feel nearly as personable if you were to let me down or die in a game. I put you there, not me. Die in a game like this. But if you're sitting next to me, you can clearly feel a different vibe and atmosphere, whereas online is very different. So I 100% agree with you on that one. Now, speaking of your staff, this was the question I had because I looked at your staff online. You have one of the largest staffs I have ever seen in collegiate. 15 bodies, including yourself. How did that take shape? How was this possible? Because, like I said, this is one of the bigger staffs I have seen, and it goes from esports director all the way down to social media coordinator. How did you get this, and how did you set this up the way that you wanted?
So yeah, rewinding all the way back to 2017 when I first got hired.
Yeah.
Like I was officially hired full time in June 2017. So I was hired and had 3 months before the school year to get the team in order.
Which isn't a whole lot of time. We talked to Coach Rob in the same boat. Like he's like, yeah, this isn't a whole lot of time.
Yeah. So I got hired, and for the first year, I think it was the first 2 years, I was the only staff member full time.
Okay.
But over time, the goal is build value and then turn that value back around to the administration and get more resources to hire more staff. So we're at a point now where we've built enough value. We're up to 5 full-time staff members.
Okay.
So there's myself, there's an assistant esports director, Chris. There's Gabby. She's kind of running our facilities here now especially now with the new Nexus facility open, we need somebody to kind of run and manage the boots on the ground operations. We've got Dan Banner running our broadcasting team. And then we've got Anthony Quagiotto. He's going to be coming in to do handle our IT and eventually events as well.
That's a heck of a
dive back into events. Quagiotto? Yeah, it's kind of cool. He's like, anytime he's like, how do you pronounce this? He's like, it sounds like Pidgeotto.
Okay. Like it. I call him Quagi. Quagi.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, we've got those full-time staff members, and then depending on the year, depending on what we get approved for, we generally have somewhere around 5 to 10 students that are on work study as well. I believe a lot of schools in the U.S. have work study, but for us in Canada, it's 24 hours a week. Currently, the rate is $15.50 per hour, so it's a pretty solid student job. So generally, we'll have somewhere around 5 to 10 students on that. We've got a lot of our coaching staff are primarily either volunteer or on scholarship. So we have a lot of scholarship coaches as well. That's kind of one of the big goals that's on the horizon is eventually finding a way to get paid coaches. That's probably one of the things holding us back a little bit from really consistently competing at that elite level. The problem with us is that like in Canada in general, even athletics doesn't often have paid coaches, so like here we have a national championship baseball team, right? Even their coach is like volunteer. Maybe he gets a stipend of some sort. So
that's the way our coaches were too.
Yeah. So when I go to my administration and I'm like, look, these other schools we're competing against in the US, they have full-time coaches. If we want to continue to compete against them, we're going to have to do the same. Otherwise we're going to fall behind. And they're like, well, that's probably not going to happen because even our basketball and baseball and soccer coaches aren't paid. It's like, oh man. So it's going to be a big uphill battle, but it's definitely something I'm going to continue working on, and I'm confident it'll happen during my career here at the college. It's just something we got to work on. But in the meantime, it's been easier to bring on staff members for those management type roles. So that's what I've been doing is if I can't bring on coaches, then maybe I can build our organization, continue to grow our organization through management roles. So that's the direction I've been going in.
To give, because you named 5 of them, to give more credit where credit is due, you have Nicholas, and correct me if I'm wrong on these if they haven't been updated, but Nicholas is the academy coordinator and Fortnite coach. Dawson is the content lead and Call of Duty coach. Mike is Rocket League coach. Hussein's a Valorant coach. Jake is Rainbow Six coach. League of Legends coach is Yuri. Amanda's the League of Legends team manager. AJ is a Rocket League team manager. Jackson's a broadcast and production coordinator. Amanda's social media coordinator, and then Trent is the social media coordinator as well.
So that's a little bit outdated. We got to fix a few of those, but I'll give a special shout out, and this is just kind of proof of like what we're doing. Actually, is you mentioned Jackson as a broadcaster. He was so last year he was one of our work study broadcast students. He's a graduate of the Esports administration program here.
Okay, there you go.
And now he actually is just hired by Fisher College in Boston.
Nice.
and he's going to run their broadcasting department down
That's
there.
awesome.
So
We
just
just
to kind of
had
show you, like, getting stuff started here and then going on beyond the college and getting careers somewhere else, right? So
Mason Schlegel on not too long ago, and he just went to Fisher for Halo.
okay,
He's a Halo
cool.
player. So I've heard of Fisher. But the more I looked into Fisher, I was like, oh, okay, Fisher's got some stuff going for him.
Yeah, Fisher is basically like, the majority of the staff and players that played for Bay State last year, and,
Right,
and Bay State was a very highly competitive team. Like
right.
they finished second in basically every game
Everything.
last year.
Yeah.
They kept losing out to Northwood, I think, in most games. So
Yeah.
they got second in basically everything. And then I don't know exactly the whole story. It might be something interesting for you to talk to them about on
Mhm.
the air one day, but there must have been some sort of falling out, and so all of the staff, or the majority of the staff and the majority of the players, left Bay State and are now at Fisher. So
Yep.
Fisher this year is going to be a very strong program. That they're going to be technically a first year program with
But they're gonna be
staff and
strong.
players that have
Yeah.
all already played together for a year. So
Yep.
it'll be a very strong competitive program across the board in most titles this year. So yeah, it's cool to see one of our students and one of our former staff members go on
Success
and do
story.
something bigger. And
Yeah.
I'll give another shout out to another. He's not on that list, but one of our former League of Legends staff members.
Mhm.
He's now the esports director at a college in northern Alberta called Clair College.
Okay.
So it's really cool. Like, people in traditional athletics talk about their coaching trees, where their coaching staff have gone on to build careers and stuff like that. So I'm starting to kind of build a little bit of our own here at the college, and it's cool to see our former staff and former players go out and do cool things.
Northern Alberta, they have internet up there?
Yeah, I guess they do. I don't know. I
I
know that
always
they
have to
definitely
give.
they definitely have some trouble with ping issues
Yeah.
for a lot of games.
I bet you they do. No, I had a lot of my hockey buds were from, Saskatchewan and Manitoba and all those areas over there. And like, you guys have life up there? Like, well, yeah, it's always cold, but it's great. I was like, I bet you it's cold. Yeah. Like, the lakes at least protect us. We don't get that cold. If it's cold,
Yeah.
something's wrong. So let's talk about the Nexus. We talked about that lab that you guys just opened up. You said 15,000 square feet of esports heaven. But it's open and free to all students. How much time went into this place?
I don't remember exactly when the discussion started, but it probably would have been as early as maybe 2018. We started talking about this.
Wow.
So when we first started in 2017, this space on college campuses isn't usually easy to come by. So
Mm.
I was lucky enough that the student union, the student representative council, which that's where we're housed under, they had a few study rooms that they weren't too happy with how the students were using them, if we
Right.
want to just put it that way.
Right.
So they decided, we don't want these to be study rooms anymore. They can be your esports space. So it was probably in total 750 square feet that I was given. It was enough room to fit 12 PCs and a small broadcast station.
Right.
That's how much room I had. So for the first 4 or 5 years of our program, that's what we've been living out of. So in year one, we already had 40 players in the program plus staff. So we had outgrown it already in year one. So it became very obvious that we needed somewhere bigger and more
Right.
long-term, more permanent. So I think it was around 2018, maybe 2019 that the discussion started about finding us a bigger spot. And then at the same time, our school over the last so since I've been hired, when I was hired in 2017, the school had somewhere around 8,000 students or 9,000 students, and we've got right around 14,000 or 15,000 students now.
Wow.
So it's grown dramatically in that time period. So one of the biggest areas of growth has been our School of Business and School of IT. Those
Yep.
two, they used to be one combined school, but now they've grown so big they've split them. And so they needed more classrooms and more offices and everything. So because our esports academic program is housed under the School of Business,
Mhm.
it would eventually worked out that they were going to build this new business tower, and the esports nexus was going to be kind of like this cornerstone attraction in that
Oh, okay. Very
building.
much like Ferris State. Ferris State just got just south of us here. They got their academic program, but they've got a building basically built around esports, but it also has production, but it also has, I believe, computer science. but esports is the beating heart of it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So our new facility is technically, like you've got like almost like zoning on campus. So you've got like this is academic space, this is student space. The Nexus is actually like this hybrid area that is like
Nice.
hybrid student / academic space because
cool.
the esports programs are so intermingled with each other. Like the varsity program and the academic program are very tied together. So
Right.
it's a sort of this hybrid space. But yeah, it really worked out. And it's been, like I said, probably since 2018 or 2019. At one point, like we have a pool here on campus, and it's something that for like 10 years they've been wanting to get rid of, to be honest. And they're like, could we just like put you guys in the pool? Like, is that possible? Could we just renovate the pool, put you guys? I'm like, I don't think that's gonna work. And then another point,
that would be
like,
pretty cool though. Instead of a stage, you guys are down below.
just down in. Yeah. So that came up at one point as an option, and then we used to have this old cafeteria that is closed down now because food services have moved around to a different part of the college, and so you still can see where there was like all these old kitchens and things. Like there used to be like a burrito place, and they're like, "Could we just like find a way to put you guys in here? Would this work?" I'm like, "No, this won't work."
Right next to the deep
ceilings
fryers.
The ceilings are like only 10 feet high in there.
Yeah.
I'm like, where are we gonna put a stage? Like it's not gonna work. So eventually, it worked out. We found our spot in the School of Business. In this new business tower that was built. We're kind of on the main floor, and yeah, it all worked out. We're in a great location on campus, and we've got everything we need. But to be quite honest, we don't want to stop growing here.
Right,
So we've already outgrown our
You
space.
sound like Doc in Boise State. You never know how to stop growing. He's like, we always got to grow, But I mean, that's a good thing though. Your program, all the programs I've talked to as of late, it doesn't matter if they've started in one classroom or if they've started with an arena. Everybody's growing to the point where they have to get bigger. I mean, Coach Rob, they have to get bigger. Fair State, they have to get bigger because the student body that's there for esports or for club or whatever it is, they're finding that there's more bodies than that they could comprehend. So they have to continue to grow. And I don't think people realize the power of video games. Like they just don't understand until you get 50, 100, 150, 300, 400 kids saying, hey, I would love to be part of this club. Oh, wow. Look, we have 400 bodies now. What do we have here? What do we have to do? I'll
throw some numbers at you too. Like, so we do like an open sort of application on our website, and it's just it's mostly just sort of passive. Like it's just people land on our website, they come and apply. Over the last year, we received somewhere around like 600 applications for our varsity program, and we only take like maybe 1% of those people, like honestly. And then this year we have somewhere around 120 people between our varsity and academy players, and we just ran open tryouts last night, and our open tryouts and we still have them for 2 more nights, but we've already had somewhere around 60 or 70 new students trying out. We already have 120, and then we have 60 or 70 still looking that are already here at the college, still looking for spots on teams. So
and that's not the club. That's varsity.
They're looking for academy and varsity spots, like scholarship spots. Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, and that's not even to mention the club. Like the club is just getting going for the year. Generally when they do like their casual gaming events and stuff like that, like they're going to get a couple hundred more students out. So gaming is really big on campus. Even for the schools that don't support it officially, there are hundreds or thousands of students on campus that are gamers, and if you're not supporting it, you're missing out on a huge opportunity.
Well, it's very much like when we had Sibby on from University of Michigan. They're not a varsity program. They're not supported by U of M. They have the U of M moniker, but their club team, 300. When I talked to her, 350 kids. And that's just club. That's like, my goodness gracious. I know Michigan's big, but 350 kids were like, yeah, I'll play video games. It's club.
That's like 350 that have come out. Like,
exactly.
I bet you there's like at U of M, there's probably several thousand that have no clue that there is a program.
Because when I was at school in 2004 to 2008, everybody was playing games. There was no thought of, like, we had Halo lands every once in a while, but there was no thought of esports and clubs and varsity by any means. But yeah, everybody had a system. Everybody played games. So it doesn't shock me, but it's funny when you get the higher ups like, whoa, what did we get ourselves into? Yeah, there's going to be hundreds, if not thousands of kids doing this. So we talked about obviously, how big you guys are, and obviously how many kids come in. But something interesting I saw on Twitter this week, for those that might be more in the social or marketing side of things, the Saints were just top in interactions for the month of August among collegiate esports. Are your students making this happen? How is this happening with the Saints social space? Like, is it the kids running it, or is it just, are we memeing so we get clicks? Like, what is happening here that, boosted you guys to the top of interactions for collegiate esports?
I mean, we've actually, ever since that organization, I forget who does those rankings, but ever since those have started coming out, we've always been in, top 5 programs for like every metric. And really, credit goes to Chris. So Chris was one of our graduates from the Esports administration program. He was one of my first students actually in 2019. Okay. He graduated. We hired him on. He's my assistant director now, and his portfolio is recruiting and marketing. But at this point in time, recruiting has become such a huge job for him that for the most part, I'd say like 95% of marketing now lands on the students' shoulders.
Got it.
We've got he's a rock star. Trent, he's our social media coordinator, but he does graphic design work. He does video editing. He does all kinds of stuff. So he's really kind of the brains behind, definitely August was mostly him doing that stuff. Mm-hmm. I think August too, you could also credit that to, we had an amazing recruiting class this year. We're bringing in players from all around the world now. So like up until this year, we were purely Canadian students, and then all of a sudden this year we've got players coming from the UK. We've got a player from Germany. We've got a player from Israel. We've got some from South America. We stole a few of your American players to come up here. So I think credit also can go to those. To getting those recruits in, because some of them have really big followings. So when they post on Twitter saying I'm committing to St. Clair, check out their new facility that I get to play in, and that gets like a
bunch of wheels,
20,000 views or whatever, it really helps us boost those numbers up. And the other thing that I think in August specifically that really helped us was our Rocket League team last year was extremely good.
We finished 4th.
We finished tied for third technically, but top 4 in the world for collegiate Rocket League.
Yep.
And at one point we played in this tournament that ended up being a qualifier for the Commonwealth Games. So the Commonwealth Games are basically like a mini Olympics for any country that was formerly a part of the British Empire technically. Gotcha. So I guess the only people that aren't allowed in are countries like yours that really fought their way out of it.
Back in 1700s, we were like, we don't no more. Canada's like, you guys can hang around, but we're good.
So anyway, so our team played in this tournament, and we were the top placing Canadian team in this tournament, and that qualified us to represent Team Canada at the Commonwealth Games. So we went to the United Kingdom, to Nottingham and Birmingham, and competed on behalf of Team Canada. So we got a lot of social media traction because of that as well. So really a combination of things, like the success of our teams, the successful recruiting class we had, and then Trent and our other graphic designers and content creators just putting out some really amazing top tier work as well. Mm-hmm. So all that combined comes together to really push us up those rankings. And obviously there's a lot of value for the college in marketing. So, we always push that angle, and those numbers help me turn around and talk to the administration and get more resources and new facilities when I can show them the value that they're getting out of it. Right. So,
and speaking of top tier, we're heading back to this Director of the Year for you. You were NACAD, National Association of Esports Coaches and Directors, Director of the Year in 2020. A huge honor, and I'm not trying to overplay this by any means. That's a huge honor. Some of the most prestigious names in collegiate esports, smartest minds are on that list in previous winners. But what did that mean for you and for the program? I mean, that's a huge deal. Obviously I want you to brag a little bit here, because it's not everyone can get these honors. And even when you look at some of the people on that list, you might not think that they're necessarily tied with esports, but it's all about what they put into that program and what they're building. So what did that mean for you guys at the program, as well as what did it mean for you?
I think like in esports, I think it's very common. You see this a lot. You see people talking about this on Twitter a lot, but imposter syndrome is like very real in the esports world. Like I've been working in esports technically since about 2010,
Yeah.
and so I've been in this for 12 years, and yet I still sometimes feel that like imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
right? So, um, getting recognized like that really helps alleviate that
Yeah.
problem a little bit. Um, yeah, no, I really like what NACAD's doing with trying to educate and grow the space, and
Mm-hmm.
I was really happy to be given that award, that recognition, and yeah,
Were you the first
honestly,
Canadian director to win?
yeah, I think I'm the only like. You got to remember with Canada, like
You don't have
there's
many programs,
still
obviously.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's still only about 5 or 6 varsity programs in the country
Mm-hmm.
still. I think that number is about to grow quite dramatically over the next couple years,
Mm-hmm.
based on a lot of the conversations I'm having. Um, but yeah, for the 2017, 2018, 2019, there really only was there was like 3 of us. There
Yeah,
was
you and Lambton.
St. Clair, Lambton, and like Durham College came on shortly after Lambton, and
Mm-hmm.
for a while it was just the 3 of us, and then you're kind of trickling in like one new program a year. That's kind of been the pace. I think this is the first year where the pace is going to be a lot faster than one program a year. I think we'll end up. It's looking like 3, 4 new programs this year, and then I expect another 4, 5 programs the following year.
Mm-hmm.
So before we know it, we'll get to a point where we've got 20, 30 varsity programs in the country. But yeah, it's still been much slower. So when you say, are you the only Canadian? Like, well, yeah, but
Well,
I'm
yeah.
also the only Canadian working in this space.
But
But I
hey,
think that'll change. We've
that's a
got some
crown you
great,
get to wear, brother.
yeah, I'll wear it for now, but we've got some amazing individuals growing the space here. Like, I'll give a quick shout out to Tyler Hetherington at Fanshawe College
Mm-hmm.
in London, which is not far from here as well. Obviously, I think we've probably talked with Tony from Lambton,
Yep.
Tony Frangis, and then Ben Bramley from Keanu College,
Mm-hmm.
Bill I from Durham College. There's a lot of people doing some really cool things in the space here, and I think things are looking up for Canadian collegiate esports.
Mm-hmm.
I do think we have a few more hurdles to overcome than American schools do sometimes, just because we don't have as strong of a legacy in
Right.
intercollegiate athletics.
Mm-hmm.
So I think American schools kind of lean on that legacy to help build esports, whereas we don't have that legacy
Right.
to lean on. So sometimes it's a bit harder for us a little bit, but I do see us turning the corner here over the next year or two.
I can definitely see that and agree with that. What you're talking about there is, I'm familiar with Canadian schools in general, just because me playing hockey was always a huge collegiate thing. Well, Canadian thing, and then college started catching up to juniors and everything else, so you started seeing more collegiate teams. But I had a camp at Guelph, so I went to Guelph, Ontario, and I believe it was Guelph University. I cannot be correct
Yeah,
on that.
there is I
Yeah.
think it's University of Guelph, but
University
yeah,
of
there's
Guelph.
one of our larger, I mean, not larger, they're a mid-sized
Yeah.
university here in Ontario and
And
Guelph.
that's where
Yeah.
I went for a camp, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what Canada's doing. But like you gave shout outs to the esports directors in the collegiate scene, I have to give a shout out to Charlie Watson, the CEO of Lazarus, just because he's been tying in collegiate with the pro side of things, and he's really been up forefront of getting programs into colleges so kids can not just play, but they can also get the degrees in broadcasting or design or whatever it is, and then intern on the pro side as well. So you can kind of see that life before you make that full dive, and it's like, okay, maybe this wasn't for me. So that is something I definitely have to put out there as well. And we've had Charlie on the show. I believe he was my first guest, just because I was like, Charlie, be my first guest.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're interested in knowing more about the program, you can look us up on pretty much any social media platform. We're just at Saints Gaming CA. And then our website is stclairsaints.ca.
Yeah.
So you can check us out there. And
.ca.
we're always .ca. We're recruiting every minute of the year. So even if you're not going to be able to come this year, but you're looking for a college for next September, we're always recruiting. So it's a little bit harder for us to recruit mid-year. So we can bring students in January, but there's not as many programs that are opened up. So mostly we'll be looking for fall intake students. But we're happy to talk to you about whether it's on the varsity side, academy program, or academic side. I'm happy to talk with people that are interested in learning more about our program.
Beautiful, brother. Now we're done with questions, but you are not out of the hot seat just yet. We've got a few minutes left here, and I want to quickly do this game with you. It's a fun game. It's called 10 Questions to Earn a 1-Up. Now, if you've seen this before, pretty self-explanatory. There's 10 questions. You know, if you answer them correctly, you get a 1-up. Now, these are high-pressure questions. I don't know if you can handle them. Not many people who I've had on the show, you know, can make it through these questions. I kid, everybody's made it through.
Boy.
But, Shaun Byrne, are you ready for 10 questions to earn a 1-up?
Let's do it.
All right.
I'm a little nervous for this, though, to be honest.
All right, number 1, brother. Shaun, what is the perfect sandwich?
There's this sandwich. So there's this restaurant local that we order food from there every once in a while.
Okay.
They have an amazing menu. I always get the exact same thing. It's a pulled pork Cubano sandwich.
Ooh.
It's my favorite sandwich anywhere right now. Yeah, pulled
That
pork
hasn't
Cubano.
been mentioned before, and that sounds amazing. Is there barbecue
Get
sauce
that
in
with a
there?
poutine on the side.
Oh.
It's an amazing meal.
Stop it. That's my favorite dish, and not many people in America know what poutine is, but poutine is, you get French fries, gravy, cheese curds. Oh my goodness gracious, man. Poutine is God's gift to this earth, and I don't care what anybody says. And I went down to Disney. Side note, now you got me sidetracked. They had
pulled pork and poutine do that to people.
Oh yes, it does. They even have pulled pork poutine at the bar that I go to and get it. Disney had Epcot's food thing going on, and they had the Canadian booth. They had poutine. They had 3 different kinds of poutine. They had normal poutine, some other poutine. Then they had this, they called it sweet poutine, and it was sweet potato fries, but it was a dessert poutine, which kind of upset me. And then they had marshmallows, chocolate, something else. It was okay, but I thought like sweet potato fries and poutine. I was like, yeah, you're onto something there.
When you're onto something with the sweet potato fries, but then as soon as you mentioned the marshmallows and stuff.
Like, number 2, iPhone or Android guy?
I've always been a Google phone guy. So like it used to be the Nexus and now it's Pixel.
I don't know what it is with you director guys. Like everyone says Android. I'm like, am I the only goofball in the space right now? Like
honestly, like not even Android. It's for me. It's specifically Google, and it's for this simple reason that I hate bloatware. So like you get a Samsung, even like a Samsung phone, you get all these extra like dumb programs and stuff. I hate that. So if you get a Nexus or a Pixel phone and they just come so clean, and that's just what I like about it. So
minimalist. Number 3, scariest animal.
You know what? I was just thinking about this the other day. So I played disc golf and I threw a disc into a little pond a little while ago. About a month ago, and I had to kind of wait in there a bit to get it. And I realized I have this fear of leeches. I've never even had a leech on me, but I've realized it's kind of like one of those like unfounded fears.
Yeah, no,
you're so scared of having leeches on me. But first of all, I realized like they're not even that bad, even if you get one. I think you can take them off pretty easy. Yeah. But I have this like unfounded fear. If I see any kind of water that's like sketchy, I'm like, leeches. I don't want to touch that.
I mean, you're validated in that, brother. Me and my sister, we go camping over on the east side of the state, and the Asable River, we go swimming. I kid you not, the first time she ever got a leech on her foot, you would have thought she was being murdered. Like, she was flailing in the water, yelling. It was like, what's wrong? I got a leech. I was like, oh, okay. You know, you pull it off, but yeah, that's the scariest thing ever, man.
I don't know about scared, but that was what immediately came to my mind because I was just thinking about that the other day.
And people it'll suck your body through it, and like, no, just get a little bit of blood. You'll be fine. Number 4, favorite sports movie.
Probably Remember the Titans. I actually went back and watched this a little while ago, and I think there's some inspirational stuff in there. I even started putting out some. So there's one scene where he's talking about the players arriving to the bus to go to their boot camp, and he's like, you're gonna arrive in a shirt and tie. If you don't have a tie, buy one. If you can't afford a tie, take one from your dad. If your dad doesn't have a tie, steal one from a bum on the street or something like that. And we did our little banquet for our varsity team back in April or May, our year-end banquet, and I basically just clipped that and put it up for all the players in the program. And show up looking decent. We're gonna take pictures. Please put a little effort in.
I like it.
No ripped jeans and like
No
sweat
sweats.
stained t-shirts.
Yeah.
You know.
I like it.
But anyway, yeah, that's again probably the first one that came to my mind. There might be some other ones that I like more, but that's just the one that you caught me with.
Yep. Left side, strong side.
Yeah.
Number 5. Okay, would you rather spend a week in the forest or one night in a haunted house?
Forest easily, yeah.
I
I'll
mean, being
definitely
from
take
Canada,
forest.
you guys are meant for that. So.
Yeah, I spend several weeks up in the forest pretty much anyway during the summer. So yeah, that's an easy one for me.
That's true.
You know, even one of my like in-laws' cottages is off grid as well. So
Yeah.
um,
Off
yeah,
grid's
like
great. I
yeah,
love
so
off grid.
I have no problem with the forest. Haunted house, that's a little bit creepier.
It's only like 8 hours, brother. It's not that long. All right, number 6. Very tough question. This might be the toughest question on this list. What number am I thinking of?
I'll go with 23.
Oh, no. Number 7. Plane, train, or automobile?
For what? Just like which one do I like best?
And which one are you going to take anywhere?
I mean, automobile is just the most flexible option.
Okay.
I'll go with that. I mean, yeah, I'm not a fan of the whole airport situation. If I had my own plane that I could fly wherever I want, at whatever time I want, without having to wait in security lines, maybe the plane.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like because of all the extra stuff you have to go through with the security and all that, I stay away from that. I think just car is just way more flexible.
Number 8. Biggest fear. What is Shaun Byrne's biggest fear?
I don't know. We were talking about leeches. Can't be leeches again.
Leeches. That's like
I don't know. Biggest fear?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's such a hard one. You're gonna give me a complex. I'm gonna be thinking about this all day now today. I don't know why I've never thought about this question before.
I mean, people don't like, fear. I mean,
Probably just
not?
like failure. Maybe just like failure or something. I don't know.
One,
So, like kind of like a generic one like that, I guess.
I mean, no one wants to fail.
Yeah.
Especially building a program. I mean, your fear of probably failing, right? So, I mean, it's validated. So. But when you said leeches, Tristan from Valparaiso, I had him on. His most dangerous animal or scariest animal was snake. And then, yeah, of course, his biggest fear was snake, too. So don't worry. You're in the same boat if you just go with leeches. Number 9, DC or Marvel guy?
So I'm not like a comic book fan, but I've watched a lot of the movies. I'm in a tough spot because I like all the Dark Knight movies.
Yes.
A lot, but then I also like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies a lot.
Yeah.
So it's hard to. I have to like. I'm gonna go with. If I had to pick one or the other, right now, I think I would go with DC with the Batman movies. Yeah, I like those a lot.
The reason I asked this question, and I don't think I've ever explained to anybody, is because to me, I like Batman's my favorite superhero. But if you go to the DC movie side of things, like they screwed that universe up so bad.
They did big time, and that's why it was like a harder, more thought I had to put into it. Like just the Dark Knight, the primary Dark Knight trilogy on its own,
right?
Like excluding all the garbage that they put around it was good. Yeah, it was good.
And
right?
like,
so
I love Marvel, but like as a kid, DC was my bread and butter. Like, and I love that side. But if I have to give it to someone, I have to give it to what Marvel did the last 12 years, 14 years.
Oh yeah,
whatever
no, it's
been.
wild what they've done. I guess for me, as like more of like a casual fan of that kind of stuff, it's like Marvel has just got to a point where it's too much now, and it's like
right.
So like for example, I haven't watched any of the Spider-Man movies after like the first 2 or 3 that came out with like Tobey Maguire way back in the day.
Yep.
Because I don't even know what I'm supposed to know or what other movies I'm supposed to watch first for them to make sense.
Right.
And that actually gives me anxiety.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if I could just start with this.
There's like an OCD involved with it.
Yeah.
Because me and my wife do the same thing. We're like, if we're going to go see this movie, we got to watch the other one back so it makes sense to us. Like, and that's a huge problem with Marvel's. Like, if you want to sit and watch a movie, you got to know what it's associated with. So you have to go all the way back to 2000.
Yeah, so that gives me like anxiety trying to, because if I start watching a movie and I'm like, oh, I'm missing
Yeah.
something, or I'm missing jokes, or then it's like I hate it,
Yep.
and I have to like immediately stop. So
100%,
yeah,
brother.
gives me some anxiety. So that's why I'll go with DC.
Got you. Last one, brother, and then you're off the hot seat. Number 10. One song for the rest of your life on repeat. What is it?
Oh man, I don't know. It's so hard.
That's a toughie.
I'm very much just like a shuffle like music listener.
Yeah.
I'm not even like a huge music buff at all, but like like I have a playlist of probably 400 or 500 songs that I just put on shuffle.
But is there one
There's
song
never one
that
that I'm
just
like
makes
clicking
Shaun do this and be like, oh yeah, like just
maybe so there's a band called Nathaniel and the Night Sweats, and there's a song called "Son of a Bitch." I don't know if I can say that on the air.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah,
SOB. That song gets me going. I think every time I hear that. So I'll go with that one for right in this moment.
Nathaniel and the Night Sweats.
Yeah, you can look that up.
All right.
Yeah, you can look that up. It kind of gets me going. I think it's one of those. So like I'm saying, like if I'm writing emails or whatever, and I just got my music playing in the background. Yeah. All of a sudden, that one comes on, and I just start singing it out loud. So maybe I'll go with that one right now.
Shaun Byrne, you have earned your one up. Congratulations.
Yes.
You are now off the hot seat. Shaun, thank you so much, brother. The esports professor, varsity director there at St. Clair College. The esports professor and varsity director, I should say, for St. Clair College in St. Clair, just Windsor, right across the bridge, right across the Detroit River from Michigan. I appreciate you being here, brother. Thank you for taking the time out and talking to us about your program, what you've built there, and it's awesome to see from, I say afar, but we're not that far away from you. But you guys can check them all out on their socials, like Shaun mentioned. You can also reach out to them if you're interested. There are some questions with going to a Canadian school, like what is it? How is it different from an American college or university? What's the price? Like all that stuff is a little bit different, but don't worry, you can check it all out and get a hold of Shaun, and he can take care of you. Shaun, thank you, man. Appreciate you, brother.
No problem. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Here we go.